All right, so let's jump right into a topic that's, well, it's absolutely fundamental for anyone who writes code or even just works with developers. What's the real difference between a framework and a library? Because these are the tools modern developers are using every single day. Let's get into it. To really get our heads around this, let's use an analogy. Let's pretend for a second you're not writing an app. You're actually building a house from scratch. You've got the land, you've got the big idea. Now what? Of course not. That would be completely insane, right? You wouldn't go out, mine your own clay, fire up a kiln, and personally mold every single brick yourself. It would take an eternity. And you know what? In the world of software, starting from absolute zero is just as wild. And that right there brings us to the core problem we're all trying to solve. Before we can really appreciate these tools, we kind of have to feel the pain of working without them. So let's take a look at why coding everything from the ground up is truly doing it the hard way. The interesting thing is how all of these issues are connected. It's not just that it takes forever. It's that you're constantly forced to reinvent the wheel for really basic things that have already been perfected thousands of times, like a simple login form, or a button, or how to talk to a database. And every single time you write that code yourself, you're just opening another door for bugs and security holes to sneak right in. So if that's the hard way, how do we start working smarter? Well, the first tool we usually reach for is a library. I want you to think of it like a developer's favorite specialized toolbox. Okay, so here's the textbook definition. But what does it really mean? A library is just a big collection of pre-written code, functions, little helper methods that you can pull into your project whenever you need to do something specific. Need to figure out a complex math problem? Yep, there's a library for that. Want to make a really cool graph? You guessed it, there's a library for that too. And this brings us right back to that toolbox. When we're building our house and we need to hammer in a nail, we don't go and forge a hammer from scratch. No way. We just reach into our toolbox, grab the hammer, use it, and then we put it back. The most important part here is that you are in control. You decide when and how to use the tool. And I am willing to bet you have definitely heard of some of these. If you're doing anything with data science and Python, NumPy is the absolute king for handling complicated math. And for building those slick, interactive websites we use every day, millions of developers rely on React, which at its heart is a library for building user interface components. Okay, so a library is a toolbox full of handy, specialized tools. Got it. But what if you need more than just tools? What if you need the entire plan? Well, that brings us to our next big idea, the framework, or as I like to call it, the developer's blueprint. Now, a framework is a whole different animal. It gives you the entire skeleton for your application, and it has opinions. It tells you how to structure things, what the rules are. You don't just use a framework, you live and build your application inside of it. Let's go back to our house analogy one more time. This is not a toolbox anymore. This is the architect's full blueprint. Or maybe even better, it's like a prefabricated house frame that's just been dropped onto your property. It tells you where the walls go, where the kitchen has to be, where the plumbing runs. Your job is to come in and fill in the details, the paint, the cabinets, all the stuff that makes it yours. And again, these are giants in the industry. For building really solid, secure web apps in Python, you've got Django. For those super complex, single-page web apps, there's Angular. And of course, Microsoft's .NET framework is a massive ecosystem for building just about anything. They all give you a clear, structured path to get things done. Okay, so we have the toolbox and we have the blueprint, a library and a framework. They sound kind of similar, but there is one simple, incredibly profound difference that sets them apart. And it all comes down to a single question: who's really in control? And here it is. This is the whole thing right here, the big aha moment. With a library, your code is the boss. When you need something, you call the library. But with a framework, the roles are completely flipped. The framework is the boss. It's running the show, and when it's ready, it calls your code. This really powerful idea in software has a name: inversion of control. And that's exactly what's happening. The control of how the application runs has been inverted. It's been handed over to the framework, not to you. Seriously, if you remember one phrase from this whole explainer, make it that one. So now that we've got the what and the how, let's really nail down the why. Why does any of this even matter? Because at the end of the day, both of these tools exist for one reason: to help us all write code that's faster, better, and stronger. And it all really comes down to these 4 pillars. First, you save an incredible amount of time. You also get consistency because frameworks force everyone to work the same way, which is a lifesaver for teams. Third, you're building on reliable, battle-tested code that's been reviewed by thousands of people. And finally, these tools are designed to scale, so your little weekend project can actually grow into a massive one. At the end of the day, it really comes down to this classic saying. When you use a good library or a mature framework, you are getting the benefit of all the experience, all the bug fixes, and all the brilliant ideas of thousands of developers who came before you. You're not starting from scratch. You're truly standing on the shoulders of giants. So whether you're grabbing a specialized tool from your library's toolbox or building your dream project inside a framework's blueprint, you've got this incredible head start. So the only real question left is, with all this power and efficiency right at your fingertips, what will you build?